Hi, everybody. This is Lirita for the Institute for Global Transformation. This is May, the mid of May. We are almost 6 months into this year, if you can believe it. I can't. And today we complete a 40 lesson series, believe it or not, that we have been working on for 40 months, at least. I think there was 1 month where we might have broken the lesson up into two categories or two lessons. So we have been working consistently for at least 40 months on what has been called, or what is called, creative thinking, which has been a beautiful group of lessons that I have enjoyed. I hope you have enjoyed them as much as I. And in this particular lesson, we kind of summarize everything that we have studied, if that's possible, in one lesson so far. And at the very end of this lesson, we will go through not only a meditation, but I will give you I will be talking to you about the next group of lessons that we will be dealing with and inviting you to take part. I'll give you the title and we'll talk about it before we end this session. So I welcome all of you into this last of the lessons on creative thinking that we have been working on for the last bit of time. So let's get to it and move through into the last of these lessons, which will be good for us to do because, as I said, it summarizes everything in a way, and it gives us some new information, I believe, in the summary that kind of embraces and gives a base for anyone who has not been following these lessons. If you would like to, all 40 lessons are available on YouTube, on the IFGT page. And you'll find a lot of other material too from the Institute for Global Transformation there as well, on ongoing programs, less teachings and whatnot, group sessions on that YouTube venue. We're talking about the soul. We're talking about the approach to the soul. We're talking about the awareness between the difference really, between soul and our human consciousness. Many of us ask, how do we know? Okay, who are really beginning to delve into the depths of the approach to the soul. And as we meditate habitually, consistently, and begin to notice a shift in our being, oftentimes the question is, how do I know the difference instantly between my human awareness and soul? So soul is an ever growing or expanding degree of consciousness. The soul is an ever expanding degree of consciousness. It is that magnetic field of awareness between spirit and matter that expands increasingly until the entire field or parameter between spirit and matter, that entire field of awareness is completely filled with soul, occupied by the soul. Remember, we've talked about divine emergence in the past. We've talked about becoming soul infused. So think about that. Spirit, matter, the space in between. When spirit impresses matter, it creates that magnified, that field of magnetic consciousness, which is in itself soul. As humanity, we have three types of souls within us. We have the animal soul, the human soul, and then the divine soul itself. The animal soul identifies itself with form and instinct. The human soul is selfish. It's focused on the separated self, life for the separated self. It's possessive of its own things and those that it wants to possess, those people that it wants to uh, say is mine. Okay. It does not realize itself to be part of the one life. It seeks a life for the separated self and for those that it considers to be theirs. My wife, my girlfriend, my daughter, my son, my job. It's always mine. And as it does this, as it lives for the separated self, it creates experiences and a plethora of emotions through which it begins to learn and understand life. If it's a soul or a being on a higher level of evolution, it will begin to notice patterns. It will begin to notice patterns in things and learn from those experiences. If it's stuck in a lower vibration, or if it's living in a lower vibration, it may never notice patterns and think that never connect the dots. Okay, that's the difference. The higher vibrational being is able to connect dots and realize patterns and learn things from it, and from that wing into a totally different level of being. But the arc of human evolution, thankfully, continues. It does not stop with the human soul. As we begin to expand and gain in greater consciousness from our experiences, we realize ourselves as consciousness. If you were to close your eyes in this moment for even for half of a minute, 20 seconds to 30 seconds, if you were to close your eyes in this moment, I'd ask you to do that right now. What is it that you experience? What is it that you notice? What it is that you notice, I would hope that you notice, is consciousness. And as we expand and grow and gain in greater consciousness, we realize ourselves as consciousness of the soul. It is the soul that's conscious. That's what we're feeling into. And that's why we meditate, to gain greater purview, a greater hold of that connection to consciousness, which is soul, and to be informed from that place. And the overshadowing spiritual soul, which we'll talk about in a few moments. So that which we are is soul, and we identify it through our consciousness. They're one and the same. Okay? Soul, consciousness, awareness, one. Soul is that part of us that lies above and free of the form. Soul, as I said earlier, is that magnetic field between spirit and matter. And that magnetic field, when spirit, as I said earlier, impresses matter, or spirit, will, divine purpose, power, impresses matter, substance, mother, divine intelligence, which remains inert until it is impressed by spirit, wherein it becomes active. It becomes alive with that energy, which is it has been impressed by spirit, will, purpose, where it then begins to perfectly outpicture that which it has been impressed by. And that activity creates that magnetic frequency which is consciousness, creates this energy between the two. It gives birth to that magnetic field, which is soul. So the energy between spirit and matter is awareness, consciousness, and it pre-exists all awareness, all consciousness pre-exists to form and consciousness as both spirit and matter interrelate in degrees of frequency in all of their variations. Consciousness or soul, that magnetic field, which is the result of spirit unifying with matter, impressing matter, creates soul through life and experiences in the subjective reality. Subjective meaning personal observation, personal feelings, personal ideas, okay, that take appearance in time and space. Evolution occurs or happens as the incarnating consciousness responds to the existing overshadowing reality. The overshadowing reality is different than reality in time and space for long periods of time. The overshadowing reality is connected to spirit. Divine will, divine purpose. So evolution happens as the incarnating consciousness, that consciousness that is within, that magnetic field that has grown out of the union of spirit and matter, creating that magnetic field, and we would call it the indwelling consciousness up until a period of time. So let's just call it that. The indwelling consciousness responds at some point in time to the overshadowing spiritual soul. That reality and its outer reflection. Because as we recall, that which is going on inside is reflected outside of us. That which we see outside of us only outpictures that which is going on inside. Okay? And until there is an alignment between the overshadowing soul and the indwelling consciousness, until there is an aspect of growing unification between the two, our reality, our experiences, our friends all manifest as something that really does not reflect the overshadowing spiritual soul. Okay? Until there is that aspect of beginning a sense of union, that call, that wherein we are desiring to meditate, we want to be connected with something bigger than ourselves on a regular basis, and we become more disciplined and involved, active, listening, more vertically aligned rather than horizontally aligned. Until that happens, what we're dealing with is the indwelling consciousness. When that alignment begins to become, when it begins to happen, that is when, and more of that space between spirit and matter is being occupied. That's when we're dealing rather now with the incarnating consciousness. Because the soul is slowly beginning to incarnate in the being, in one's being, causing one to be more soul aligned, more soul activated, more soul not only focused, but that soul energy is beginning to flood beyond the confines of our inner self. It's moving out. We are being soul. The energy of soul is the frequency. Our frequency and our tone begins to change. Our friends, our experiences, inwardly and outwardly, begins to change. So evolution happens as that incarnating consciousness responds to the existing overshadowing reality and its outer reflection and our experiences in time and space, our outward experiences begin to reflect that inner connection, that inner soul merging, solidification. Meditation puts us in touch with the reality between spirit and matter. Meditation, as I always said, is the key that opens the doorway to the inner worlds. Once in touch with that truth, we reflect it outwardly in time and space. And we begin to course correct by making sure our outer world is reflective of our inner truths, our vertical alignment. The conscious soul, incarnate, identifies with consciousness rather than form. The conscious soul incarnate is aware of and identified with being. The magnetic field of awareness or soul rather than form. The conscious soul incarnate is causal to form. That's a big statement. I say that again and again and again and again. The conscious soul incarnate is causal to form. It is causal to our mental, astral, physical bodies, our three lower worlds that affect our environment. It is causal to our environment. The conscious soul incarnate, there's a lot in that statement that was just made. We want to change. We have to go inside. Change our inner geometry and the external geometry changes. Okay? Where that change takes place is inwardly. It's not changing the things around us. You know, we could want to change things and say, oh, I got to get out of here. I can't stand this any longer, and move to Italy. And guess what? You think you have run away from whatever it was that was happening in the past, but you don't realize that you are the one that's caused it. And within a period of time, usually 3, 6, 9 months, the same things are beginning to happen because it's you, it's your frequency, it's our frequency. Okay? I'm not pointing any fingers. If in fact we have not taken the time to understand these truths and realize that change occurs inwardly first before we expect to see it outwardly. The conscious soul knows it is causal to its experiences. The conscious soul knows that it's causal. The conscious soul incarnate knows that it is causal to its experiences. It completely embodies the blueprint of our higher alignment. And translates that or interprets it or shifts the frequency inwardly so that our outward experiences in our life and affairs begin to reflect that higher frequency. That's how it happens. Okay? You have to put the key in the ignition before the car starts. So the conscious soul incarnate, as it is centered within the soul, the conscious soul incarnate centered within the soul does not identify as the separated self. It doesn't identify with the separated self. It identifies with the one life. The identification is totally different. Okay? Remember, the human soul identifies with time, space, form, i.e., like the animal soul. It hasn't learned yet. So the conscious soul incarnate does not do that. It understands that it is part of the one life. It is an aspect of the one life. It realizes itself to be at one with the one life, not the horizontal world in which we live. It knows itself to be an expression of the one life in every way. So I ask then, what do you seek? What would you prefer? How would you prefer to live? Why are you here? Why are we all here? To identify, to realize that we are part of the one life, that we are the one life. We are the one and the many. We are the many and the one. Our identity is not with form. Form is temporary. We are eternal beings. We drop the shell and get another one. Create another one. Our soul does that. Until we have learned all that we are here to learn, and we have moved even beyond the realm of soul, as the fourth, third, and fourth degree initiate does. Yeah. And we get to the place, even after that, that we no longer, there is a choice. We no longer need to return. We move off into something completely different level. That is possible. You don't know how many times I hear acquaintances and friends of mine saying, after this, I'm never coming back here. I don't want to come back to this. Unaware of the fact that our sojourn here, our journey here, is purposeful. Lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, until we build up enough we've given enough of ourselves. We've understood humanity. We've understood weaknesses and flaws and bettered them. We have divinely merged with our soul. We're no longer experiencing personal karma, but now we're working on service karma. There is a methodology. There is a purpose. There are, how do you get, doorways, thresholds that have to be crossed. In order for us to get to that point. I mean, the Christ, what was that? Fourth degree, or fifth degree initiate. Okay. And that's why we are here. He laid the blueprint, as I've said earlier in many lessons past. He laid down the blueprint for us to follow. Doesn't have to be exactly like his path, but to understand what those levels are. And they're all explained and written out for us to learn. So this is not something that we can, this lifetime, this life experience, this soul incarnating into creating a physical vehicle coming back into form, choosing our parents, gifts, talents, flaws, weaknesses, and learning through all of them, building on all of them. It's not the one-way ticket. We can't just say, okay, that's it, I'm done. You know, this journey is a purposeful journey where we weave ourselves, our understanding. We increase the level of our being and our consciousness to be able to inhabit more and more, and knowing that we take that with us when we go and start from that new level when we return. It's all purposeful. We just can't say, I'm finished, I don't like it anymore. So the conscious soul incarnate does not identify with the separated self, as I was saying. It identifies with something totally different. It identifies with the one life, the divine. The human soul identifies still with form. How do we know the difference between soul consciousness and human consciousness? How do we know where we are in the scheme of things? How do we know that we are being touched by our soul? Two ways. Really, two ways I would say, well, okay, let's just say it. Okay, we know if we are impelled to be of service to humanity. That's a major indication that we are being touched by soul awareness, soul consciousness. We want to give, we want to create, we want to impart something to humanity, service to humanity. And service to humanity exceeds service to those we love. It's not about service to those we love. No, no, no. It's not about those within our orbit necessarily, simply those within our orbit. Okay? It is service to humanity means that we're thinking about humanity. We're thinking about how to share these truths that we've learned and embodied, how to impart that to humanity, and creative ways of doing it. Okay? Remember, the soul is magnetic and it radiates. It attracts and it radiates. It cannot help but touch everything around it. Plants. Let's just call it the plant kingdom, animal kingdom, mineral kingdom, human kingdom. That's just the nature of the soul. The desire or the need to serve others is an indication of soul contact. And it comes from the aspect of the overshadowing spiritual soul. that part of us that's above and free of the form. It's not the indwelling, okay? It's that part of us above and free of the form. It is the nature of the will to good, regardless of who or whom. It comes from a love of all humanity. And it's an indication of one who can be called a probationer disciple. I don't know if I've mentioned that to you in the past, that there are levels of discipleship, and anyone who walks in this way, anyone who seeks to be connected to the one life, anyone who seeks to serve humanity is called a disciple. There's a need to impart universal truths to others. Not only are you learning that inherently through the inner work that one does, but there's a need to share, radiate, magnetize, so that one can radiate. And these truths are applicable to all people, regardless of their station, their creed, their religion, their race, their color. These truths include aspects of things like brotherhood, unconditional love, harmlessness, reincarnation, karma, among many others. Brotherhood or oneness, okay? And once these truths are known, understood, embodied, then in that aspect of sharing through service, service through sharing, one can lift the frequency of humanity exponentially. Ten people holding a particular vibration in a room, in a building, are automatically lighting up all the people that they might be connecting with in various floors, levels, town, you name it. That's how it happens. It goes out. It's like a candle, lighting many candles. So take a moment to reflect and realize that aspect of truths you now embody. What are the truths? How many truths do you embody? Rather, how many? But are you aware of the truths that you embody? In that we have been spending, as I said, over 40 lessons on this work. What are you now embodying that you may not have embodied in the very beginning? What are you now aware of? How has your frequency changed? And how is that frequency reflected in your environment. How motivated have you become to serve others? Have you become motivated to serve others? Are you now a conscious soul incarnate, or on your way to becoming a conscious soul incarnate? And it takes discipline. It takes ongoing, unrelenting, although we do, like birth, have a tendency to pulse in and cease or stop. Everyone has their own rhythm. Some are very directed and use that purpose, power, and will to be unrelenting. Okay. Others touch in, touch out, question, experience, so forth and so on. The soul seeks two things. It seeks creativity. It needs to be creative, and it needs to serve humanity. Creative service, put the two words together, is the path of discipleship. Creativity is defined as an activity which produces an adequate vehicle of truth that can serve others with a purity of expression. I'll state that again. Creativity is defined as an activity which produces an adequate vehicle of truth that can serve others with a purity of expression. And this can be in any form. It can be through painting, if you're an artist. It can be through teaching. It can be through writing, a poem or a book. It can be through invention, something that's going to benefit humanity at large. It can be through music. It can be through film, movie, through performing arts. It can be through a home. It can be through a group in service to mankind, working together for one particular focus. There are many ways to utilize spiritual creativity in service to others. It's pure in expression. And it can create a creative masterpiece. That's the difference between maybe a song that I hear sometimes songs that I know have been downloaded. There's no question about it. The music is downloaded. It came from someplace else. And you hear that many times with musicians. They say they may have dreamt it, or they say that they wrote it in 5 minutes. It just came through. The words came through, or the music came through. Okay. Or a poem comes through. In this way, the overshadowing soul of the disciple is able to incarnate, and the degree of soul available in the brain can be stabilized. Their three lower worlds and their persona are fused into the ideal of the soul. And this becomes noticeable or evident to others, modeling the divine plan for growth to humanity. Now, that was a key statement. So, through our creative work, through our service to humanity, whatever it is we choose, it is a method and a formula, so to speak, for the overshadowing soul of that disciple to incarnate, and a degree of soul, the degree of soul available in that being, in that person, to be stabilized in the brain. So that's why service and pure creativity is so important. And our freedom of expressing that desire to serve through creativity, through some creative method that comes to us, is the vehicle for deeper embodiment, causing a major shift within the being of that person who allows those energies to flow through them as they're coming through. That direct connect, it allows for a deeper embodiment that as he or she administers that energy, and not only do they grow as a result of it, but the others who experience it are also touched and they too grow. Isn't that magical? It's amazing. As they model the divine plan for the growth of humanity. Discipline is required in this effort. You can't be sloppy about it. Speak to one who knows about being sloppy about discipline. I've been there, done that. Okay? We all go through phases of that until we learn that we have to keep the foot on the throttle. We have to throttle continuously. We can't let the foot fall off. Okay? We can for a while, but then at some point in time, you say, okay, enough of that. I'm the one who is not only wasting my own time, but slowing my own process of evolution up. So as one goes through this process, it changes one's thoughts, feelings, words, deeds, all of that is changed, refashioned into the expression or tones of one's overshadowing spiritual soul until they become visible, real, substantial, palpable, and it shifts one's frequency from one thing into something totally different. This is the only way forward, people. This is the pathway forward in growth and establishment of the conscious soul incarnate. There's no fast and easy way. You know, yeah, I hear a lot now. I've been on this path a long time, most of my life, and as we are shifting into the Aquarian age, as we've shifted into the Aquarian age, um, I hear a lot of new terms, new ways of sharing these truths. It's not going to speed up the process any. It still requires the same amount of diligence. It might seem like it makes things shorter and more abbreviated. And who's to say? I have not, like quantum think. I have not necessarily taken that path in my spiritual process, although I appreciate and gravitate to its ability to cut to the chase of things. Okay? But I'm aware that still the deeper levels have to be acquired. Okay? Every rung on the ladder has to be traversed. It's not about skipping 3 rungs necessarily, because some point in time you're going to be tested on all of that. Did you learn it? Did you actually understand it? Have you embodied it? So each step is an important step up that ladder. So there's no fast and easy way to becoming the conscious soul incarnate. Disciples, and I'm going to read this as a quote. It's a quotation from the text. Disciples can serve only in the capacity and to the degree of their own embodiment. Disciples can serve only in the capacity and to the degree of their own embodiment. Their instrumentality must be a reflection of that truth that they embody and able to conduct its energies in their outer life and affairs. When students have perfected, I'm going to read this directly from the book. When students have perfected their instrument of creativity so that it obeys their will at any given time, their creative service can then be inspirational. That is, it is both inspired from above and it's inspiring to those states of consciousness who have not yet achieved to their degree of wisdom. Thus, the probationer disciple becomes an accepted disciple a true servant of the divine plan within the body of humanity. I will finish this lesson with a technique called pause and discover. Very easy technique, very quick meditation, depending on how quick one wants it to be, but it's a meditation of assessment. The goal of this alignment is to establish a regular, ongoing rhythm in which one pauses to identify one's present state of consciousness. We pause occasionally, rhythmically, ideally, to discover wherein our consciousness has shifted from the confining limitations of the personality to the reality of the spiritual soul. So let's take a moment and do this meditation together. Prepare for meditation, please. Back straight, always sitting up. You do not meditate laying down. Feet flat on the floor. Focus on the spine. Spine is straight. That includes the head and neck. The front of the body is relaxed. The spine is straight. Tongue at the roof of the mouth. Focus the consciousness in the ajna center. Between the brows. And become the observer. As the observer in the ajna, note what you are in that moment identified with and as. Take a few moments to note that identification. Recognize that what you are identified with and as indicates your state of consciousness and assesses your state of consciousness. Take a deep breath and return to normal focus. Do this meditation for the next, do this meditation regularly for the next month or so. This is something that can be applied at any time, at any level that one is. An advanced student as well as a beginning student. It makes no difference. It's extremely important to be able to sense, to go inside and find out what you are, where, and what you are identified with in any given moment. Whenever you are intuitively guided to do this meditation, do it. Okay? Okay. For all of you who have concertedly been working with these 40 lessons, I applaud you. I salute you. If you have been doing it, it puts you in a totally different place than when you began, without question. As I've mentioned to you before, these are the teachings from Creative Thinking by Lucille Cederkranz. She too is one of those beings who was overshadowed, like Alice Bailey was overshadowed by the Master Dwal Kul of the second ray. And I forget her first name. Well, Blavatsky, Madame Blavatsky, was overshadowed by Master Moria of the first ray. Lucille Cederkranz was overshadowed by Master Rakotsi of the seventh ray. Going forward in this program of teaching, wisdom teachings, starting next month, begins a brand new set of teachings called The Soul and Its Instrument, an 18-lesson series that speaks and teaches about the soul and its vehicle. And that's very deep, very interesting, very unique in its transmission. I invite all of you who find anything interesting within these sessions to join me in this 18-week lesson, 18 months, since we do one a month, of the soul and its instrument. I know if you've enjoyed creative thinking, you will definitely enjoy the soul and its instrument. It is really a predecessor to creative thinking, um, and an important one because we're talking about the approach to the soul, but we really understand the soul? This particular course is going to break it down into its components so we truly understand the soul and its vehicle. It is a predecessor to another 40 lessons, a book, another 40 lessons, which I teach regularly, the nature of the soul. With creative thinking and soul and its instrument under your belt, um, you will definitely be able to understand nature. You will be able to understand nature of the soul. Nature of the soul is not an easy course. To me, nature of the soul is like a master's course um, in the wisdom. It is not for the light at heart at all. Um, but again, it's one of those major courses that changes you from the inside out. I don't know that I will teach that in this particular venue. I usually teach that through my own Zoom sessions. Um, and this course, Nature, Soul, and its Instrument, too, I teach as well through my own Zoom sessions. And in my own Zoom sessions, I provide for you not only the text, each lesson in hard copy, its own study guide, and other things as well. That course has to be paid for. It's totally different than this one. Okay. This one, I share with you the information on a monthly basis so that you get the essence of it, the truths of it, the understanding of it. Okay. In one fell swoop in each lesson. The other, where one pays for it, we might break it down into 2 sessions. Okay. Rather than just one, depending. So I welcome you to this course. I think it will be a very insightful one. I look forward to it myself, sharing it with you. The Soul and its Instrument, starting June, mid-June, the 3rd Sunday in June, right here, within this particular venue, the Institute for Global Transformation. Think on it, share it, and we will be putting out information on it so that you can share it with others that you know. I would very much love to have a group of ongoing students in this particular course who show up every 3rd Sunday, and we talk about it, we discuss it, we go through it, flesh it out, parse it, and embody it. Okay? It's an invitation. Talk about it with your friends and respond to the Institute for Global Transformation if you're interested, and or myself. I give thanks for you. I give thanks for the opportunity to share and teach you now that you understand the importance of service and creativity. This is one way that I serve and use my creativity for humanity at large. Have a great month until we meet again. And until that time, namaste. The God in me sees and knows and senses the God in you. With much love, much heart, take good care.